Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to CEO Interviews, a production of Agoracom in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on at their companies. With us today, I'm happy to have for the first time Richard Cindric, is Chief Operating Officer at Bougainville Ventures. The company trades on the CSE under the stock symbol BOG, a fairly new listing and the newest client at Agoracom. So a lot of you aren't going to be familiar with the company, so I'll tell you a little bit about the company. They hold positions in real estate and facilities to offer fully built out turnkey solutions to luxury crop growers. So they've definitely got a different take on the space. They then lease the facilities for production and processing from Bougainville. The first 10,000 square feet of greenhouse space in Washington State has already been completed, ready for occupancy. The company's interaction is limited to providing capital and retaining an ownership in the real estate, infrastructure, and the equipment leased by luxury crop growers. Early estimates say that a greenhouse can produce twice the amount of product and at least less than 50% of the cost compared to warehouse production. So there's a lot of potential upside. Here to tell us about is Richard. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you because, look, there's a lot of stuff going on in the space. And the growing and cutting part seems to be, phase one and dominated by people. But you guys have taken a pretty different take here. You're on the real estate side. How did you guys decide to get into the real estate side of the business?
Well, back in 2014, when the MMPR space was quite difficult and challenging to enter, Washington State went legal. And we decided, since it's right in our backyard, we'd head down there and acquire some assets and work with growers and license holders that have less experience and less capital.
So naturally, in the intro here, I gave a pretty broad overview of the business. So tell us more about the model. How do you get from, are you identifying the land and then you're building? Tell us more about the actual model and how this plays out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so like you said, we're a land bank, land development company focused on greenhouse infrastructure in the cannabis space. So what our objective is to build a facility which would typically cost $1.5 million for a 30,000 square foot facility. And that is quite difficult for a mom and pop grower who's received this license as a lottery, and one does not have the money to build a 30,000 square foot greenhouse, nor do they have the experience to grow. So we come in and provide that turnkey facility solution where they can just come in, drop their plants in a fully furnished greenhouse and begin operating.
Actually, when you say that, they probably don't have the experience to go raise the capital. So by you providing this turnkey, it's a lot easier to manage a leasing situation than it is for me, George's Grow Company, to go out and try and raise a couple of $1 million or, to build the thing in the first place. So is that a huge advantage there that you're able to say, turnkey, lease it from us, away you go, start running your business?
Exactly. Again, what we're doing is identifying individuals who have the license, who do not have the ability to grow, nor do they have the money to build it or the expertise to build it. So we've already built, we already have one tenant in place. It's a tier 3 license, which allows him to grow up to 30,000 square feet of canopy space. And 10,000 of it is already constructed and ready for occupancy. We're just waiting, the tenant's waiting for the approval by the Washington State Liquor Control Board, which is weeks away. Whether it's 2 or 4, we're right around the corner from him planting.
Where are you going to be concentrating your facilities? You talk about Washington State. Is that a great place, or are you guys agnostic geography-wise?
Well, Washington State was our first target, since it was close, easy to manage. And, we've between, contracts, we've got enough room there to build out to probably 8 or 10 acres, which could hold 8 to 10 licenses depending on which tier they are. But no, we want to get into Oregon, Nevada, California. But right now the asset is in Washington, with one tenant on board and with a second tenant to follow very shortly here.
All right, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I can segue into how does expansion look like realistically? What is your plan for how many of these? Let's assume a 30,000. I know you can probably do bigger and smaller, but let's assume 30,000 square feet is kind of like the norm size. How many of those are you guys capable of being able to erect over the next, per year of the next 5 years or 3 years, whatever you are?
Per year basis, all depends on the capital we raised. Again, we've just gone public, so
right.
our objective is to do a financing of about $5 million initially, and that would sustain about another 4 gross, so another 4 tier 3s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Richard, is it potential? What I love about your model is that there are a lot of investors out there who, for whatever reason, are maybe afraid to go directly into the cannabis space. But real estate is time eternal. Is it safe to say that you guys are very attractive to real estate investors who want that diversity away from the traditional real estate that that we've seen all over North America?
Totally. I think once people see with the way we're headed, our goal is to eventually issue a dividend to our shareholders once we're at that level. But listen, there's a lot of room for growth here. I mean, we have just gotten started with this first initial facility, and the objective is to build out, like I said, to 8 facilities. And another thing too is because we've been in the space for quite a while, since 2014, we've already gone through the ups and downs, what Canada probably will foresee here in the future, because in Washington the price per pound has already fluctuated hundreds of dollars, and by us being on the East Coast, we've been able to sustain those price drops on a per pound basis, and that was our objective. Because if you were to grow on the West Coast, you'd have to be in a full-fledged warehouse facility. Us being on the East Coast, we can grow inside of a greenhouse, keep our overhead costs lower, which means that if there is a drastic price drop or fluctuation, we can sustain that, right? Because our overhead costs are less than it would be on the West Coast.
You and your guys sound like a team that's been around. This isn't your first ride at the rodeo. You've had some prior success. Tell them about you and your CEO, Andy, and the kind of success you guys have had in the past.
Yeah, Andy Jagpal, our CEO, comes from a great success with Cannabis Science. They were one of the first in 2014 and sooner than that actually to enter the space. And as well as my background, I was successful with a company called New Age Farms, which similarly did this heading down to the Washington state market. So there's massive experience in this, a lot of intellectual property that we plan to exploit. And, like I said, not only going into the staying in the cannabis market, we're going to be entertaining hemp projects as well.
I've got a micro question and a macro question for you left before we sign off. On the micro side, it's not just the real estate, but is it also the case of the infrastructure and the equipment that you're also preparing for growth?
As a part of the square foot basis that we charge, we also provide the master grower services, sales services, consulting services. There's infrastructure, water, electricity. So all of they basically do not have to lift a finger if they didn't want to. All of the help that a grower would require is there as long as he's willing to pay for it, right?
Listening to your story, last question on the macro, if I'm thinking out 5 years, when I first stumbled onto Bougainville and started reading about the company and learning about you guys, I couldn't help but think about the movie The Founder, the story about McDonald's, which is, he really became truly successful today at the end of the day when he got away from trying to make money on the royalties on every hamburger and French fry and turned into a real estate holding company at the end of the day. And that's when the massive wealth was created. Is that kind of like where you guys want to be in the next 5-10 years, where you're this massive real estate holding company, you're letting other people do the work, you're letting other people worry about the margins, but you guys, that massive real estate holding company at the end of the day that's just making money, hand over fist and not having to worry about the operations?
Yeah, that is the goal. Our objective is to make sure that we own the property we are working with. So, right now you can classify us as a real estate investment company, but our objective in 5 years is to be a real estate investment trust issuing dividends with assets in not only Canada, but California, Nevada, Washington, and Oregon, right? So, we've got a big picture, and we're going to put our head down and give her and for the next 4 or 5 years and see where it takes us. But yeah, we've got a good base in Washington, and you'll see that we've hired a director that's very capable in the United States, and he's going to help us out with some acquisitions. But growth through acquisition is definitely our strategy.
And that's what I love about your business, because some of the companies that are coming out are very narrowly focused. They all want to get into the grow and cut and sell, and we know that's going to become a commodity fight where the biggest guys win. We're starting to see some innovation, and that's what I really love about Bougainville. That you guys are really starting to innovate here, and this is great. This is a great vehicle, I think. And by the way, I'm not giving you investment advice because you're a client and I can't do that. But it seems like a great vehicle for investors who want to get into this space, but aren't so aggressive and a little more risk averse. And you guys kind of have this great asset for them.
Yeah, you know what? Like we definitely, even though we're only been trading here for a few weeks now, we've been in the business for 4 years. So the fact that we've thought long term and situated our assets on the east coast of Washington initially to keep our overhead down, I think is smart, and it tells the investor that we know what we're doing and we're not just going in blind. And the money is not necessarily going to be made in just growing. You have to have a processing facility, which will be one of our objectives. Call it a high-tech kitchen with an extractor. So that would allow us to, get into our tenants to get into the extraction business and so forth. But you've got to diversify. You got to help the tenant build a brand. Keep him happy making money, and so too you make money. So yeah, that's definitely our objective.
Last question. You're listed on the CSE, but you're doing a hell of a lot of your business in the U.S. So naturally you'd be very attractive to U.S. investors because they're seeing you, they're touching the product and your real estate. But you're going to make it easier for them to become investors. Any?
Oh, you bet. Yeah, we've got the paperwork rolling to get our U.S. Listing, as well as we'll have a Frankfurt listing there shortly. So, look for us in the States to be on the OTC in about 3 weeks.
All right, that's good to know, because when you're operating that jurisdiction, naturally that's where you're gonna attract a ton of investor attention. That's great news.
Oh, exactly. It's just a matter of time. Like I said, we've been only trading for 4 weeks here, so all of this takes time, right?
Richard, love your business. We want to get this interview done first because we want to give everyone a really good idea about what it is that you do. And that's a fantastic overview. No doubt we're going to have you or Andy back several times in 2018 and then beyond, because it sounds like great things are happening. Thanks for joining us. You've been watching Richard Cindric as Chief Operating Officer at Bougainville Ventures. The company trades on the CSE under the stock symbol BOG, BOG. But it sounds like not for long. So if you're an American investor, watch for news of them listing on the OTCQB as well. Thanks for joining us. But to find out more information about the company, they're pretty newly listed, very new to Agoracom. That means a lot of people haven't discovered them. You're amongst the first. Get to Agoracom, and you know the drill from the company's name or stock symbol. Take a look at the profile. Take a look at all the information we have there for you. Do your due diligence. And if you've got any questions, post them there. Management and everyone will be looking for your questions and be happy to answer them. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.